I'm used to a little bit bigger kids, but not too much bigger. In fact, apparently I had Brad's brother, Luke, last semester in school. So, my interest, I have some questions I'm supposed to answer, and then we'll get to the fun stuff. So, when I was sitting in the seats like you are, I grew up, my mom was a nurse. I'm the youngest of 4 children, and my brothers, I am glad to say, are much older than me. So my parents were older when they had me. So I grew up with older people around me. And when my mom was a nurse, I would go to work with her. She worked in the doctor's office. And so I'd go to work with her, and then on Saturdays, I actually started working the front desk and doing different things with her. So it was in my blood, so to speak, that it was very comfortable for me. I had a cousin that became a nurse while I was in high school. My sister-in-law is a nurse, so I'm surrounded by nurses. It just felt like the right thing to do. I like taking care of people, and everybody kind of has a little bit of a story as to why they become a nurse, whether it's a grandparent or a parent or a sibling or something took them into the hospital setting and they wanted to take, they watched people take care of their loved one. Mine, I was trying to think of a couple examples of what other than my mom and going to work with her drew me to nursing. And that was my grandmother. I was in 6th grade and she had a heart attack. And so she had lived alone, and having that heart attack, she really shouldn't have been by herself. So she took turns going from my house to then my aunt and uncle's house. And while she was with us, she actually had another heart attack in my bed that one night. And I watched her struggle. I watched the paramedics come, and because we were in an older house, they had to literally put her in a chair and carry her down the staircase and then put her on a stretcher. And I watched all this unfold. So it was really comfortable for me to go into the hospitals, into the doctor's offices, and really watch people, even my own family, experience the things that they did. So I decided I was going to become a nurse, and that was, I had my mind made up as a senior in high school. I was going to go and I was going to get it done, and so I started at UNO. This is where the education, how much education is involved. Started at UNO with the intention that I was going to go to UNMC. Well, they had a really long list of applicants, and I was unfortunately an alternate. So I decided that I wasn't going to go that route, and I ended up at Creighton, and I still finished my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, or BSN, in 4 years. Okay. During that time, I knew from my clinical experiences as a student that I would want to teach someday. So that was in the back of my head that I was going to teach someday. And then, but the thing that was holding me back was I needed a master's degree, and I did not want to go back to school. And one big thing I want you to take away from today is not, you be what you want to be. Whether you want to be a nurse or a doctor or an electrician or whatever it is you want to be when you grow up, because some of us still feel like we're still growing up, make sure that you invest now. These teachers are teaching you how to learn, how to study, how to apply things, and how to think critically, not just what we're telling you, know this. So really invest now, no matter what you're going to do down the road, and study, and learn to study, because wherever you land after this, you will need to know how to do that. And we deal, so here's my little college spiel. I deal with college students who didn't have, Teresa's like, oh my gosh, I hear this at home all the time. I deal with college students that are right there, ready to go and know what to do. And then I have students that they really have never studied before. And it is a punch in the gut, in the face, in the back, everywhere you could punch somebody. It's a big shocker. And it's horrible to see. We don't want to see those students. We want to see everybody be successful. So the takeaway from today is whatever you do, start now and do it well, okay? So I went to nursing school at Creighton, finished in 4 years with my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. Then I decided that when I got out, while I was in school, my junior and senior year, I was a psych tech at, it was St. Joe's Center for Mental Health, which does not exist anymore, it's closed. But I worked with people with mental illness. Okay, that had its own exciting moments. So, little story, one of my most memorable, a big guy had something set him off, and we would be assigned, depending on, we would take turns, we would be on the I don't want to say team, but the people who, if someone did have an issue, that group of people would go and pretty much try to de-escalate the person with words, and then if that didn't work, then we would have to literally take them down. And that occurrence was a takedown. The words and the trying to calm him down did not work, and my memorable moment while I was in nursing school was that the guys went and tried to, we were talking to them, and the guys had to take, it was hand, and then what ends up happening is they're face down on the ground. Well, the guys couldn't get him situated, and so I just went and planted myself. I sat right on his rear end and like, yes, kind of thing. So that's one of my memorable in mental health. Mental health is, whether you work in mental health or you work in the medical piece, you're going to deal with those mental health pieces all the time, which when I get to my dialysis job, there's just, is anybody perfect? Do we all have issues? We can't claim to be perfect, right? We all have some sort of abnormal behaviors. So I really learned a lot there. But when I got out of school, one of my clinical opportunities was shadowing a dialysis nurse. And that jumped out at me, like, I want to do that. Well, I went and applied at the dialysis clinic, and the nurse manager said, well, you really need to get some hands-on experience, not the mental health experience, but you need some hands-on. So I went into long-term care, and in there I took care of older adults. So another thing to take away is, don't call people old people. They're not old, they're not geezers. I had a student I had to correct. We worked on it through the entire semester, and he walked away going, I won't ever call anybody an old geezer again, I promise, Kate. And so older adults is the correct verbiage. So I took care of older adults and managed a Medicare unit. I did all sorts of things, but that dialysis piece was still calling out to me. So why do I have all this stuff, I'm wondering? So in the long-term care, I did things such as tube feedings, okay? Pretend this is the stomach. So this is your stomach in here. And I would literally give people nutrition through this tube. Okay, really fun. I enjoy it. And they do too. It's a permanent thing that it can be reversed, but it's considered more permanent than this nasty thing, okay? Does anybody know what this is? It's an NG tube, a nasogastric tube. And I've had the opportunity to put this down twice in my career, and it's just because of where I landed. We don't put many NG tubes. We don't put any NG tubes in a dialysis clinic. But this gets measured to the tip of the nose, to the earlobe, down to the xiphoid process, down here where that little notch is. And then it's lubricated, and it's inserted through the nose. And then it hits the back, and then it makes its turn, and then it goes down into the stomach. That's where it lands. So nasogastric, nasal for nose, and then gastric stomach, okay? And from here, what we can do is if somebody has a bowel obstruction or they have a GI bleed where blood is seeping out of their gut, into their gut, making them bleed, it can suction things out to get rid of that yucky stuff that's making them nauseous. And we can also temporarily, if somebody has a stroke, we can actually put medications and tube feeding, the same thing as this, but this is temporary, this is more permanent, okay? So lots of things that we can play with. Some nurses really like that adrenaline rush. They want to be in the emergency room, they want to be in the ICU, they want to be that flight nurse, they want that adrenaline.